I want to ask you this because I think you have a lot in common with the Minnesota Timberwolves in that, and I've listened to you talk about the NBA, and you make references to things that you haven't necessarily seen, but you have a knowledge of the NBA, and somebody might say, well, how is a guy who's not quite 40 years old, but close, not quite 40 years old, how does he know some of this stuff that happened when he was either not born or he was 3 or 4 years old? Maybe he's been here before. Maybe there's something, he might be a prodigy. And it kind of goes against what is the prevalent expectation for somebody of a certain age. And that's why I think you and the Minnesota Timberwolves have something in common, because at 22 years old, you're not supposed to do what Anthony Edwards did in this series, what he did last night in a closeout game, Vinny, 40 points as they swept. They swept the Suns. The Suns haven't been swept in a 7-game series in 35 years. And the Timberwolves haven't won a first-round series, or haven't won a series in nearly 20 years. And yet, here's Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, doing his thing. First of all, I want us to hear from the Timberwolves, and then I want to get your take on what we saw here, especially last night in Phoenix.
Banks didn't play tonight?
Nah.
He played good for him.
Hey, that ain't our job to worry about that.
Let me just say, tonight he wasn't in foul trouble. Like, the first 3 games, the mother kept fouling. And tonight, I told him, what did I tell you last game?
He said, yo,
We
can you
ain't gonna-
find a way not to foul him? I said, I'm going to try my
Like,
best.
if you watch the game, every time in the third quarter when we would grow a lead, it's because he's in the game. Because they don't have a matchup for him. I'm like, Cat, we're not going to win game 4 if you foul. I told him yesterday, we're not going to win game 4 if you keep fouling. You keep fouling. And you see what he did in the third quarter. You see what he did in the fourth quarter. Like, he's like I always tell you, he's the best offensive player on the team. Like, if he's not in foul trouble, it's a problem for any team that got to guard us, because he can stretch the floor, he can post, he can play off the catch, he can pass. I mean, he can do everything. So we just got to keep him from getting in foul trouble, and he's going to be great every night.
Probably because I was trying to play more defense.
I mean, just stop fouling.
Yeah.
Anthony, I think before that series, when people were trying to call you a young star, you said you don't want to hear that until you win in the playoffs. Are you able to give yourself a little bit more grace now in that regard?
I mean, not yet, man. Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
He a young star. He over here talking like that He the face of the league. I've been saying that. He hate when I say it, but it's true. Like I said, future's so bright, gotta put the sunglasses on most of the time when I'm walking around with him.
No, it ain't.
Vinny, I mean, it's just good to see. It's good to see. It's good to hear. I mean, nobody has more fun than Anthony Edwards on the court, off the court. What'd you see on the court and off the court from the Minnesota Timberwolves, Vinny?
Man, that's a young American star, isn't it? Isn't that refreshing that you have an authentic American star now that we can sort of wrap our arms around, and he's not, 35 years old, 40 years old, 37 years old. You know what I mean? Like, there is something fitting about what he's doing, Anthony Edwards. Like, just in that clip, you got to see like all the authenticity of him. Did you notice that he empowered his teammate Karl Towns, who's older? He poured into him while holding him accountable publicly and saying, "Hey, man, stop fouling," but doing it in such a way that didn't seem like emasculating. And then, said, "Hey, I still got more work to do here." You know what I mean? Like, there was so much in that little morsel, that little like snapshot. It was almost like a guest verse on a rap song. You're like, oh, this dude is coming. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've never heard this dude before. He's coming, right? He's here now. And I think it's high time that, the phrase "no country for old men," Steph, he's sitting at the crib. I'm in Denver. LeBron is 48 minutes from sitting at the crib. Ant-Man put KD out. He's at the crib. It is a new day. And Anthony Edwards put up a 40-piece in a closeout game on the road. Like, that's one of those things where teams will say, you know what? We got game 5 at home. We can relax a little bit. Once they saw that Phoenix had nothing for them, like there comes a point in every playoff series or a point in every game, Michael, where you realize not only are we the better team, but we can put these guys out of their misery. Like that moment came some point in the third quarter yesterday where you're looking around and Phoenix is playing desperate basketball. They're diving on the floor, they're doing all these other things. And Minnesota is just scoring easy on the other end. And I think that was the point where Anthony Edwards said, you know what? Let me put these dudes out. And I don't think he got his first field goal until sometime late in the first quarter. Like, he didn't try to force the game, but when the game needed to be taken over, he took it over. And speaking of like somebody who hasn't been here before, doesn't he move like somebody we've seen before?
Yeah, he really
I'm not saying he is, but he moves like that man. Like, we're not supposed to say his name. We don't speak on real G's.
I know.
But he moves like that man.
Yeah, moves like him. Same position. Both from the South. Yeah, both vertical. We can't even keep up with what that vertical is because they do some things. You go, wait a minute. That was not off a trampoline. That was just a dude jumping naturally over somebody else. It's amazing what we see from him at 22. And I guess, you know, I'm putting Minnesota in the same category as OKC, and I shouldn't do it. OKC is a legitimately young basketball team, average age of about 24.
Right.
Whereas Minnesota is a young-ish team, but Karl Anthony Towns has been around. Rudy Gobert has been around. We know Mike Conley's been all around everybody's block. But their star happens to be 22, and I guess it's unusual to be led by a guy at that age who has never won a series before, but is doing those things that you just talked about, Vinny, being able up there, giving a press conference, and then, you know, not just talking about himself, deflecting, hey, I'm not ready yet, but hey, this guy right here is the best offensive player in the league, the best offensive player on the team, and if we can get him on the floor, we're going to be tough to beat. No, so they shouldn't know how to do this right now. He shouldn't know how to do it, but he does. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.